Bienvenidos a la Amigos Flyways podcast. I am your host, Joey Basayo, and a la izquierda, we have Cal Ness, and we have a special guest in the Ducks Unlimited studio here at Game Fair. His name is Scott Threinen.
I think it is
Threinen.
H is silent.
Right. Threinen.
H is silent.
Joe still says your last name wrong.
Yeah, but Joe's not tall enough to say it right.
Do you get a lot of people that call you and they're like, hey.
Everybody.
Yeah, Threinen.
Yeah, Threinen.
Yeah.
Threinen.
He's not tall enough.
Yeah, he hasn't matured to that.
He's still growing, though.
He could be. Outward.
Yeah. I think we're all growing outward.
Yeah. Well, some of us.
Some of us.
Some of us.
Yeah. I don't like how you looked at me as you said that, but that's okay.
Well, you're dad now of 2, so it's going to get bigger.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. I did recently just lose 15 pounds. So
How old are you, Joey?
I'm 31.
35, you'll start to go downhill fast.
My metabolism stopped at 28, and that's when I stopped doing physical labor at the same time. So I was just like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
Here we go.
They go hand in hand.
Yeah.
Nice little podcast booth you got set up here on
Thanks,
Game Fair.
man.
Thanks, man.
Ducks Unlimited, very
Ducks
nice.
Unlimited,
Yep.
Midwest Flyways, Game Fair booth.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Disclaimer, everybody should be a member
Yeah.
of a conservation group.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you hear people, they're like, Ducks Unlimited membership is $35.
Right.
And
Cheap.
you hear people say like, well, yeah, but they didn't build a wetland in my backyard. For $35? No, they're not building a wetland in your backyard. But if it helps raise one brood of ducks a year, wherever that duck may be, Saskatchewan, North Dakota,
Right.
Manitoba, it's worth it.
If
Like
one
it's
membership
30
does. Is it
It's-
brood or brood?
Brood.
You know,
Okay.
the crazier thing, too, is when you pay for the membership, they, like, give you something.
Like
So
you
you're
get 6
basically, like-
magazines, which
and-
if you read, you're going to learn a lot.
And you get, like, a hat or a shirt or something. Like,
everything.
you're basically just buying a shirt.
And like 200 letter stamps, on the top.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
So, yeah, go support DU. Get a membership. Ducks.org.
Absolutely. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
What are we doing?
How are we feeling about goose season?
A lot better. This year's hatch was pretty good.
Really good.
I was hoping you would say that, because whatever I think, it's usually the opposite of what you think.
Well,
so.
Joey, you don't think very much, but it's
It's true.
this year's goose hatch. So the 2022 and 2023 springs, we had a lot of late rains.
Yeah.
And that just fluctuated water levels. And Canada geese do good when it's really, really dry and just a consistent warm up. They don't need a lot, not like ducks. So this year's hatch, everything from rivers, nesters to lakes, shed water, runoffs. There wasn't that influx in, early mid-April.
Yeah.
That kind of wash a lot of them out. So this year's hatch, from what I've seen in our area and what I've heard from other areas, was extremely successful, which we needed it.
Bad.
We needed it bad. Those geese
Yeah.
that we were hunting were pretty old, pretty nasty, didn't like to do a lot, and we should have some relief, because no matter how good you are, 75% of your harvest is going to be juveniles.
Right.
So
You're shooting the dumb ones.
we're shooting the young ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Last year, at the end of the year, the weather was fucked.
Yeah.
I mean, there was literally we had no snow,
All
not
year.
cold.
All year.
Yeah.
All year. It was,
I mean, at least in the beginning of the year, though, that's like what's normal.
Yeah.
But man, I mean, like December, a lot of the time is some of the best goose hunting for us
100%.
in Minnesota, at least. And last year with the weather, it
there
was
was no weather.
terrible.
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 Everybody's like, how's your goose season? It was absolutely atrocious.
Yeah.
30 years of goose hunting, that was by far, not even close, like 7 miles out in the lead, the worst goose season I've ever seen.
Really? That's how you felt?
Oh, without a doubt.
Yeah.
Like, brutal. And everybody's like, oh, you didn't have geese. It's like, no, we had like a lot of them, like 40, 45,000. They just never left the refuge.
Yeah.
So they're just eating grass?
Wallering in it. Like
Nice word.
licking it.
Nice
licking
word.
it. You drive by and they're like, oh.
Yeah.
Like, that's what they did for 60 days in a row.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Damn.
So hopefully we have some weather, because we got a really good hatch. And I think we will. It's been a really cool, wet summer. I think we're in for a more Minnesota winter.
I think you're right, man.
Well, the amount of
Especially-
precipitation we've had this year, and then when it gets cold,
Yep.
It's going to switch to snow.
Yeah, I think people are going to be snowmobiling by Thanksgiving this year.
Oh, yeah.
I think you're right. I think it's weird, too, because, like, right now, I feel like every year at Game Fair, it's typically pretty hot.
It's nice. Last weekend
nice.
was beautiful. There's guys wearing hoodies every day.
It's like 70 degrees, you know?
I think I looked at our weather in Rochester. We had one 90-degree day and like 7 days in the 80s. That was it.
That was
Otherwise,
it.
it's been
70s.
70s.
That's
60s.
insane.
It's great.
It's so nice.
Let's keep it rolling.
Yeah, it's going to get cold, though, now.
Yeah.
Really cold.
Do you remember, I think it was 4 years ago, maybe 5 now, where we had like a foot of snow in the metro? Well, you're south of the metro, but we had like a foot of snow in the middle of October.
Yep.
What do you think was the earliest that we've seen snow in Minnesota? Like, that was just so monumental for hunting. Because that was like the earliest I can remember.
One. And if you remember that one, that was 2001, 4 years ago. That's when my roof in the shop leaked, and you had to come down.
Yeah.
Because we had 8 inches of snow on October 20th.
I remember this.
That was awesome because right before that, right during that, and right after that, we got loaded up with ducks and geese in southeast Minnesota. So that was a huge push early. You know, if you can get birds to just get on the move early, and it's just so helpful because, you know, as they get later, they get lazier, and once they migrate early, you know, something kicks in. It's like relentlessness where they get somewhere they need to feed. They're very active, and as the later it gets, like if you get them on Thanksgiving, they're kind of set in their ways, you know. So if we can get migrations earlier, it's a huge help. So any early weather is big time help. Because
what do you think about the fact that we can't hunt over Thanksgiving this year
for ducks?
Mm-hmm.
It's like so disappointing.
It's really disappointing.
Did you see the fuck up they had too with the original release of the dates?
I did. Yeah.
Yeah, people went nuts. Obviously.
Yeah, they're like, well, no way we can shoot mallards till January 20th. Yeah, you're right. There is no way we can. So
correct.
Yeah, typo. But yeah, you know, it's just the way Thanksgiving falls. The November 1st is a Thursday, and Thanksgiving's always the 4th Thursday of November. So it happens to be the 28th. You know, whether our season goes till the 30th or the 24th, you know, your duck season's probably going to be what your duck season is.
Yeah.
But if you're a guy that loves it until the end, you're probably missing out on a couple good ones that last week because, they can be good. They can be good. But
what do you think they should realistically, like if it was up to you, Scott, what would they change? Like what would they actually do?
Well, if you look at my part of the country, which is Rochester, and I hunt the upper Mississippi River National Wildlife Refuge.
Yeah.
I've told everybody, we have the shortest mallard season out of anybody in the country. Yes, we get 60 days to hunt ducks.
But they're not,
We get 20 days to hunt mallards.
Yeah.
And which is so different than like Arkansas, which opens November 23rd this year. They'll run for 60 days. They have mallards at the beginning of their season. Yeah. They're hunting mallards every day.
Yeah.
North Dakota, you know, so many mallards are raised there. They're hunting mallards every day.
Yep.
We don't. I can go down to the river on October 23rd and see 3 godwall.
Yeah.
Like, don't tell me, oh, there's mallards. Yeah, where? I don't know. We need that first push to come in. Usually happens around Halloween.
Yep.
So now this year, if they come on Halloween and we close on November 24th, we have a 24-day mallard season. So it's a little bit shorter. You know, what should they do? What should they not do? Selfishly speaking, I wish they had a special river zone like they do in Iowa with the Missouri River and stuff, and parts of Mississippi, because that water down there, it stays open so long. You know, with the barge traffic and, you know.
Just a big river system in general.
Just a big river system.
Yeah, a lot of
there's
current.
Springs, there's current, there's barges, there's boat traffic. So no matter really how cold it gets, that water down there is for sure open till December 10th, 15th.
Yeah.
So selfishly, I wish we went a little bit longer. On the hindsight of that, I also realized the guy that is in the South Zone that lives around New Ulm or lives out western Minnesota that says, hey, our ducks are here. We have local ducks that are here and raised here. I want to hunt them at the end of September.
Yeah.
Because that's when we have ducks. So when you mesh it all together, it probably works out the best for everybody. But selfishly, I'd like to go a little bit longer. But
Yeah, I think that the river season would work.
I think it would work, especially if they charge extra money for it.
yeah,
For sure.
You know, if it's a $15 license, shit, even a $50 license, so
will
many
pay
people
it.
would pay it.
Totally.
And it's only a benefit for, the
Habitat.
Department of the Interior or
Habitat.
the DNR.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it will also push a lot of ducks further south. It'll pressure them to leave that area so more birds,
yeah.
more people
Once-
down south will get them.
Once the season goes out,
They're
They're
chilling.
not-
Oh yeah, they're
chilling.
they're there till Christmas, man. I mean, I drive by them on the Mississippi legitimately all December, and the Mississippi's just filled, stacked up.
And that's when our black ducks get to the river too.
Yep.
You won't see a single black duck until December.
yep.
How do you think the way to go about getting something like that changed is here in Minnesota? Because I feel like you know way more than me about the politics side. Like, should we talk to Ducks Unlimited about it? Should we talk to...
No, they don't really have anything to do with seasons. You know, when they allot the seasons, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service says, okay, Mississippi Flyway, you can have X number of days.
Yeah.
Central Flyway, you can have X number of days. And then it's up to the state to determine them. And one of the big things why we get we get 60 days in southeast Minnesota, but North Dakota gets 75.
Right.
You know, and we're way farther, south than they are, and they run, I think, just as long as we do. You know, we get a little bit pigeonholed by southern Missouri and Arkansas because they can't give those guys more days to hammer on mallards. They're like 60's the max for Arkansas. Well, the whole Mississippi Flyway stays within that council, so we get 60 because we're in the Mississippi Flyway as well. So moving forward, who do you talk to? I mean, it would have to be state, as far as not the number of days, but when the days are aligned.
Yeah.
And for us, I
think the big thing is what would we ever have to do in terms of legislation to actually
You'd have
get
to
like a
start talking
river
to
season?
people.
It's
what
like
Courts, Steve
what
Courts,
people,
I
though?
think.
Steve Courts? Who's that?
I think head of the state DNR, I believe.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I know Dean talks to him a little bit because, like our goose season, you put in three zones, but now it's only 2 zones,
Right.
really.
Right.
So they had it really good back in, 19 and 20, 18 and 19, whatever the 2 years were, where our goose season went a week later than the central zone. So it went till like January 5th, 6th, somewhere around there. And our duck season went a week later too, which meant we went till December 2nd, 3rd, 4th. That was absolutely perfect.
It was amazing.
Perfect. That's all we're asking for. Just bump us back a day. And we used to have a 14-day break. Now we have that 7-day break, and it's like, especially for geese. I mean, none of our fields are picked.
No.
We don't have geese. So that's why I go back to saying, when it comes to mallards, we have the shortest mallard season out of anybody in the country because we don't get them until Halloween, and we close 3 weeks later. So
Yeah, from talking to you, Scott, I feel like you didn't used to hunt mallards that much.
I did.
Weren't really into hunting a lot of ducks.
Yep.
So what kind of changed on that front?
I'll tell you what changed. 4 years ago, after we built the new shop and stuff, I was sitting in there, and it was the day after our goose season closed in Rochester.
Yeah.
Which, let's say, would have been like December 26th, 27th, 28th. And I was sitting there, and I was looking back through my phone on my hunts, kind of gathering my thoughts to make a post about the end of the duck season on social media. And I was looking back, and I went, because I like to travel in October, go up to Canada.
Yep.
And then November and December, I'm around home to hunt Rochester geese.
Yeah.
And I was looking back at my phone, and I go, man, in 60 days, which technically November and December, I hunted 6 times. And I hunted the 6 days that I thought the geese would actually leave the refuge. Like, we had weather. And that's not selfishly speaking, he's only going to hunt when he can kill 30 or 40. No, I was just wanting to hunt when they would actually fly.
Yeah.
Just have a chance, an opportunity. And it was 6 days. And I was like, 6 days in November and December? That's not enough.
Sucks.
That's not a lot.
That sucks. And so I've always went down to the Mississippi River, starting back in the late 90s with Jim Matson, and I went down with Al all the time. And I would always go down a couple times of the year. And I started thinking, man, why don't I just maybe start duck hunting more?
Yeah.
You know, on sunny days, bluebird days that we call in Rochester, where you're not going to see a goose. Perfect for mallards.
Yeah.
Right.
And so got a boat, got a dog, started going down more last year. I went down like 18 times, I think, down to the Mississippi River.
Damn.
And, you know, if you said a great weather day Rochester goose hunt or a sunny day mallard on the river, I'd still take the goose hunt.
Yeah.
I love doing that. But this just adds in so many more days of enjoyment hunting that I just wanted to hunt more.
Right.
You know, I was just so focused in on geese, and I was missing just so many good days to be out in the field when the ducks were flying.
How would you compare duck hunting to goose hunting? Like, what's the pros and cons of each?
When it comes to the actual hunt itself, I think they're very similar. But the pro is obviously ducks trade around more. You know, that's the pro of the whole deal. They move. Our geese just sit there. What I really love about duck hunting is I'm pretty much 99% a public land duck hunter. I hunt, even when I go to Kansas, Oklahoma, if I hunt 10 times, easily 9 or 10 of them are on public ground. And here in Minnesota, and I like that because I think public land duck hunting is the most honest thing you can do in waterfowl hunting.
Yeah.
Nobody's paying for the spot. You know, you either have to beat them there or pick the right spot. Everything like the Upper Mississippi River National Wildlife Refuge is 200,000 acres. Everybody that has a license has an opportunity to hunt wherever they want.
It's more rewarding.
And so it's a working man's game, like getting to the spot, having knowledge to know how they're going to come off that refuge, the calling, the decoys, the concealment. Everything's equal. You know, when I go goose hunting in Rochester, it's in a lease field.
Yeah.
You know, that's not equal.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm not saying they're
Damn fun, though.
Damn fun, yeah. But, you know, it's traffic hunting, whatever. But it's just an equal game that everybody has the same opportunity on. It just comes down to the work ethic and then your talents or your abilities out hunting.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's just honest because it's awesome. So I really like it in that regard because you can to a high percent dictate your success because I've hunted the river enough now. There's not a magic hole.
Right.
There's not a magic
Depends.
hole.
It's skill.
Yeah, it's skill. And I mean, you can call ducks off of people. You can, you know, it's just a real honest game where in goose hunting, you don't get that as much.
Yeah.
You know,
Who has the most stuff and who has the better spot?
it still comes down to a lot of skill, but just the opportunity to hunt, you know, like somebody can't drive into my least pitted field and hunt it. You know, only I can go there.
Yeah.
You know, where in duck hunting, the hole I hunted yesterday, if I get beat to it today, it's his spot, you know?
Guys, this podcast is also sponsored by Flashback Duck Decoys. And let me tell you something about these decoys. They are so realistic, and the ducks honestly go crazy over them. We were fortunate enough to hunt over them in Arkansas, and you would think with the duck head going through the body that it wouldn't work and it would get stuck. But let me tell you, these things are so well built in America.
Yeah.
And the parts are the parts are so easily replaced and everything, so you know you'll never have to buy a new one. You can just replace a part here and there 30 years down the road. But when it got stuck, it would still make ripples on the water, and it looks so realistic. And honestly, the ducks loved it. So I'm so pumped to be working with these guys just because it's such a good butt feeder decoy. Like, it's just so good, guys.
Creates so much rippling in the water too, which is my favorite thing. And then they have a trip mechanism in it so that if it does get caught in the weeds, it doesn't just like keep tangling itself. It'll actually just continually trip the head till you go out and fix it.
Right,
it's unbelievable.
But even when it's doing that, it's still putting ripples on the water.
That's the thing, yeah.
Which is
They're
great.
awesome. So go check them out. Flashback Decoys. You can find them at duckcreekdecoys.com. I think another thing about it too, not to cut you off, but I think like you said too, you hunted 18 days for ducks, right?
Yep.
So for you see opportunity in hunting those ducks 18 times.
Absolutely.
You see opportunity in hunting those geese 6 to 10 times.
If not last year, 4 times.
There you go. And so that's another difference in it, right? Where it's like the opportunity presents itself in different ways where, like you said, it's not the same spot. It's not the same field. You're not waiting on that one field to be a good traffic spot. Yep. It depends. Are you going to go out there and scout them and find them in that public area, and that's when you're hunting them?
Yep.
You know?
Exactly. And there's such different aspects of a goose hunt versus a duck hunt.
Yeah.
You know, goose hunting is more obviously you're on dry ground for the most part. Trailers, big group of guys, a lot of decoys. Duck hunting, like
intimate.
You and your dog, boat ride, you're on water. Like when you're on the Mississippi River, you can see 7, 8 different duck species, Canada geese, swans. It's like
you're getting everything a little bit.
Getting everything. So there's much different things about each hunt that you can like. And now that I do both, it's like, man, it's great.
Let's talk about you getting a dog and what that's been like, man. So I know that when did you get Roy? Was it 2 years ago now?
2 years ago.
Okay.
Yep.
So what's that been like for you, just getting a dog and seeing the relationship and how he feels about it?
Okay. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah.
I was the biggest fucking anti-dog guy ever. And the reason for that is I guided for 20 years. So clients were bringing their
Seen
dogs.
a lot of shitty dogs.
I swear I've seen them all. And they don't stop coming.
Yeah.
They just keep coming.
Right.
Keep coming. But, okay, so I grew up hunting in Rochester in pits. So these dogs, none of them wanted to get in the pit. 2, if they were in the pit, we shot, then the dog got out. He had no idea where the dog was.
Yep.
So there's a little bit of disadvantage, obviously, to the dog. Okay? And then 2, when you're in Rochester goose hunting, you're in a dry field.
You can walk out there.
Walk out there and get the son of a bitch at 30 yards. And it's way faster. And it was like you the client would be like, I got a dog. Yeah, he was professionally trained. Fuck. Like dog trainers are like guide services, right? Like everybody trains dogs. Everybody has a guide service. And it's like, I know of 5 guide services that are probably worth going with. And there's 1,000 guide services, right?
Yeah.
So, you get these garage, dog trainers, and they train this dog. The dog doesn't know his name. First thing it does when it gets out of the truck is it runs 400 yards, crosses the road, somehow doesn't get hit by a car, comes back, it doesn't know its name. It can't get in the pit. The client is literally pulling and choking the dog to death because it does not want to get in this hole in the ground. Then when it's in the hole in the ground, you're
just whining
and then barking when you start calling.
Totally.
It's like, oh man, he's just not used to pits. It's like, yeah, no shit, And
why'd you bring him?
And then when the dog gets out, he lifts it out of the pit, and then it just takes off, and then it has to go to the bathroom for 5 minutes. And then the guy that runs the dog,
you're babysitting dogs,
is blowing a whistle for 3 hours. The dog has no idea what the whistle means. So, anyways, long story short, very, very big hatred towards dogs, waterfowl hunting.
Yeah.
Now, disclaimer is, I pretty much goose hunted in Rochester all the time, or when I traveled, I goose hunted all the time.
Yeah.
And we were out in western Nebraska. A guy by the name of Taylor Lackey was out there at Angel Wings. He had a dog called Hemi. And we were goose hunting. That was a pretty damn good dog.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, yeah. And he trained it himself. And I hunted with a couple more dogs kind of within that year. They were all trained by the owner. And so I was like, when I started figuring out I was going to start probably duck hunting more to get more opportunity, and I also had a son that wanted a dog.
Yeah.
Because what's a boy without a dog is half a boy, right?
There you go.
They say. So I was trying to find a dog that was balanced between family and hunting.
Yep.
Reading up on it, and so I went with a British Yellow Lab, a little more low key than Americans,
Mellow.
supposed to be.
Yep.
And and I trained him myself. And probably, I'm going to say this, my biggest mistake in 30 years of waterfowl hunting is not having a dog earlier.
Yeah.
Because I can't even imagine hunting now without Roy.
Yeah.
Without Roy. And being around animals and growing up on a farm and seeing how animals react to different situations, I think helped me with training Roy. You know, just how dogs, they have a wild personality changes, you know, just day to day. And as they get older, and just seeing the little things that make them click and noticing them, taking them into account, and also being very, very patient. And also probably one of the biggest things is where we live in the facility we have to train a dog, you know, out behind the shop in the field, the CRP pond and whatnot, really helped out. And, you know, it's just, when it comes to training a dog yourself, it takes a lot of time.
Yep.
Consistent time, you know, 5-8 minutes in the morning, 5 to 8 minutes at night, you know. And I think he just turned 2 here last month. And I'm thinking back when I got him at 7 weeks old to what he is now. I did 2 training sessions a day, X amount what it would be, like, you know, 1,000 and some training sessions. I think we missed 4.
Yeah.
In that, you know, just little things and stuff like that. And I think it just boils down to anybody can train a dog if they just understand
Stick with it.
how the dog, what makes him click, what makes him tick, and then patience and consistency. And yeah, Roy's great. He started hunting. I took him out when he was 7 months old. But
Eased him into it a little bit.
Eased him into it a little bit, actually.
Did you throw him right into the thick of it?
One of the worst things, we went to central Nebraska to hunt in the sandhills. We've been going on this trip for a while. Roy was 7 months old. Brought him with. He wasn't going to hunt. This was a river that was half frozen, rolling slush.
Yikes.
Just nasty kind of thing. And we get out of the truck, and we woke up and left that morning. It was about 7 hours away. We left at like 5 o'clock in the morning. We got there about noon. The guys we were hunting with already had it set up. It was cold, clear. The birds were just starting to fly kind of when we pulled up. So we pull up to the spread, and they have everything set. And I get out. I let Roy out. I'm starting to put my clothes on because we're kind of in a hurry. Birds are starting to move now. It's midday.
Hunting a field?
No, river.
River.
Okay. And it was half frozen over, half open.
Beautiful.
Yeah, beautiful. We were tucked into a little spruce tree with an A-frame, blah, blah, blah. And I get out, and I'm putting these clothes on, and Roy's, you know, dinking around. He'd just been sitting in a truck for, well, we stopped, but, you know, long.
7 hours.
Yeah, long truck ride. And all of a sudden I hear Jeff Vonderak. He goes, oh, here comes one. And it was a goose. And this goose turns and just comes right in, right? And I'm not thinking anything about it. And Vonderak and Corey Kolowski pull up. Roy is 6 months old at this time. He's never heard gunfire yet. And Vonderak and Corey pull up. Boom, boom, boom. And I turn around and I look, and this goose just crumples. And I go, oh, shit. Where's Roy? And Roy's standing right next to the blind, just waiting for his name to be called, that 6 month old, to go out and get this goose. You know, I'm like, holy shit, that's the first time I heard gunfire. Okay, he doesn't mind it, you know?
Yeah.
So there's little things along the way, but yeah, it was great. Then last year.
Did you let him go get that goose?
Yeah, but he wasn't strong enough to like pick it up. He was kind of dragging it, kind of sniffing it type of deal.
Yep.
But last year got him out a lot. And yeah, he's going to be good.
A lot of mallard hunts last year.
Yes.
Yeah.
He likes mallards.
That's awesome, man.
He likes mallards. And the funny thing was, when I shot some geese last year, I brought one home.
Yeah.
And was kind of training, working on him with it. It was just kind of big and just kind of clumsy. Like, this isn't a duck, Dad.
Well, how big is he?
He's about 63 pounds.
Oh, so he's plenty big.
He's getting
Yeah,
sizable.
he's probably big.
Yeah.
So anyways, we were in North Dakota, and we were duck hunting, and we shot a goose. And I was with my buddy Blake, and he's like, are you going to send Roy? And I'm like, yeah, I'll send him, Roy. And when he was running out there, I go, Blake, he's not going to pick up that fucking goose. And I turn around and look, and he's coming back with the Goose. So
Yeah.
no problem with him now. He didn't want to pick it up really a lot during training, but got out in the field. I guess he just flipped a switch and he brought it back. So he's going on every hunt now.
I feel like that's kind of a thing though with young dogs, like not being super
He just can't get the grip,
the confidence with the
it's
goose.
awkward for him because I mean, what's the average goose size that we're shooting here in the Midwest?
13
12
pounds?
12
11,
pounds.
12.
And so if they're like my dog Hank, he is, I'd say just under 50.
Yeah.
He's like the perfect size. That's the size lab I always wanted, where you can still pick him up, no problem. And but he's still big enough to pick up a goose.
Yeah.
And he was throwing snow geese around last year like it was nothing. He was picking up Canadas, but he was kind of starting to drag them like he didn't understand how to pick them up yet. And right at the end of season last year, he was starting to figure it out.
Yeah, it clicks.
Yep.
It clicks.
I really at some point I want to get into having a hunting dog. But one thing that it's really I think important to me is I've always found that dogs that are trained, like you said earlier, just to come back to it, trained by the person that's going to hunt with them, the relationship is so important.
Man.
The way that they feel about you and wanting to impress you and make you happy and like that is what makes them such a great hunting dog. And I've had so many friends that have sent their dogs out, and I think a big thing too is like people send their dog away, but when they get it back, it's like the training's over now.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you're trained, so I don't have to worry about it now.
Months.
Right, it's fine.
Oh,
Training camp's over.
He's a Grand National champion.
And man, all those dogs, you can spend as much money as you want. They come back and they suck. Like those dogs are just not. They don't care about that relationship with you.
Right.
So it's really important to me to do that. But it's cool that you've had that awesome experience.
It is.
Remember Cujo?
Oh, do I remember fucking Cujo?
Yeah.
My
old
did she try to
dog.
bite your arm off one time?
Dude, we're having a staff hunt get together down in Rochester. We got a bunch of people out in the field, and I was gone. Something came back like for the afternoon flight, and the guys were already out in the field. And I get out of my truck, and I'm going to walk out to the field. And I'm walking by these trucks, and all of a sudden, this fucking Cujo gets out of, like, he's in the topper in the back, and he just lets out the worst sounding, I want to fucking kill you and then eat you while you're still breathing, bark. And I look over, and this thing is just foaming at the mouth, ready to get me by the jugular. I go, Jesus Christ. And so I kept walking. Then my phone rings, and it's Joey. He's like, hey, Scott, can you let my dog out? And I'm like, is that your fucking dog that's in the back of your truck? He's like, yeah. I'm like, I'm not letting that fucking dog out. There is no fucking way. I'm not even turning around and walking back. I mean, this thing was an absolute psycho.
Yeah.
And so, no, that's the first time.
No, Riley was going to kill you.
Yeah, that's the first time. Is that the real name of it?
Riley.
No, Riley.
Oh, no, it's fucking Cujo.
Yeah.
And
she's a savage.
Savage.
She could be a savage dog.
No,
for sure.
Guys, this podcast is also sponsored by First Light. Let me tell you, I cannot say enough good things about First Light, especially about the rugged wool and all the new waterfall products that they're coming out with. They've just came out with a bunch of new pairs of pants. The 308 pants are amazing.
Primer jacket just came out.
I cannot say enough good things about First Light waterfowl. Be sure to go to their website, firstlight.com, and check out what they have in stock. I swear to God, she's part wolf, but I trained her myself, and you can tell.
You can tell.
Because I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah.
I was 20 when I got her and whatever. And then I just got this 2-year-old dog, Hank. He's purebred. Mm-hmm. And I was training him myself, and he just picked up everything instantly. He's such a smart dog. And then I sent him off to training for 4 months and got him back. And I was kind of scared that he wouldn't like care about me, care about me, whatever. Because it was like a year when I sent him off. And he comes back, and he's a completely changed dog. He's still his own personality, but at the same time, I could have never done what that guy did with that dog.
Sure.
And he is incredible.
Yeah, but you also train with him every day. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
You're out there working with him every day.
I continued
so
the training after the fact. And
yeah, I've seen a lot of dogs go away and come back, and if you're going to do what you said, where it's like 10 minutes 2 or 3 times a day, now, that dog's going to continue to develop a relationship with you.
Yeah, and a lot of things, I mean, obviously, training, you send a 6-month dog until he's a year old.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of things that are developing with that dog from when he's a year to 2 years old.
Yeah.
That, you have to, there's a lot of things that they learn at 2 years that they can't learn at 1 year. So the game doesn't stop.
Yeah. No, it's ever changing. And on top of that, they're learning new things as they go, just like you are,
Absolutely.
right? So continue to train with them.
Well, you're learning together.
Yeah, and like with Roy, I'm with him literally 18 hours a day.
Damn.
Like I sleep.
He's in the shop with you.
6 hours, maybe 7. So he's with me 17, 18 hours a day. Like, not like, oh, he's on property. No, he's right there.
Yeah.
Right there. So just like the little things, I mean, he knows like body language, like facial expressions, obviously voice, is a huge thing with retrievers, how you say back versus back, he knows he's got to start digging because he's in for a long haul. You know what I mean?
No doubt.
There's just time spent with a dog, that bond, the little things you learn from them and he learns from you. Like Roy, he's got a major tendency on a blind retrieve. When he lines up, his body will be squared up to it, but his eye always drifts to the right.
Yeah.
Okay. He's always, and they go where their head goes. If his body's facing this way and his head's cocked at a 30-degree angle, well, he's taking off 30 degrees right.
Yeah.
Right. So little thing is, get him lined up and I shake my, just wiggle my fingers. He looks at those fingers and then I send him.
Nice.
Little things like that. You know what I mean?
That's that relationship.
That's pretty cool.
So what you figure out with the dog, if you're in tune, and a lot of guys, I think they don't have patience. Like they want a grand national champion at 9 months old.
Yeah.
They throw a bumper out, picks it up and it comes back and they're like, yeah, that's what he's supposed to do at 4 months old.
Sure.
No, the encouragement, the cheerleading that you have to give these dogs, and get them excited.
Totally.
It's
like having a kid.
Yeah.
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 You wanna pump them up if they're going to like something and you think it sucks, and it sucks, dude.
Yep.
Yeah. One of the things I wanted to ask you about, Scott, is when you are like looking at those 6 or 8 opportunities, what are you looking for? Like, what are your indicators in your world that you're like, those are days that I'm hunting? Yeah. I mean, of course it's area based, but yeah, for you.
Yeah. One for us is clouds.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking I'm talking low ceiling.
Right.
So our geese back in 2001, so 23 years ago, they stopped flying in the sun. They don't fly in the sun. If they do, it's in late afternoon at the end of the bell. So clouds. That was first. Well, now we're looking at low ceiling. Like you really want it dark out. Just kind of cloudy out. Grass. You want low ceiling. So low cloud cover is one. Obviously, if we have snow changes all that. If we get 2 to 3 inches of snow where they can't eat grass, that changes the whole game. That we obviously haven't had in years. Mm-hmm. We haven't hunted snow base 5 years in Rochester.
2019.
Yeah. Snow base is obviously key, but clouds, low ceiling clouds, temperature, when you start to get below freezing, their attitude changes a little bit, and then wind.
Yeah.
If you can add in those 3 factors, it's sad to say, but our Canada geese in Rochester are like hunting a big buck. There's kill windows.
Yeah.
Totally.
Like you don't want to just go sit in your stand every single day, and wear that stand out. But yeah, there's like kill windows. There's opportunities where you have like a little front of whatever, and that's what you're looking for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you just time that up kind of, and you're just watching weather and deciding like, you know what, I'm going to go give it a try today.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Do you feel like you're at a point now with that where you kind of confident that like, if I pick a day I'm going to go, it's going to be a pretty good day?
Yes.
Or you still get surprised sometimes?
I got surprised last year.
Yeah.
Yeah. I picked a day. Now it was just a layout hunt. Me and Ryan, we shot our 10 geese. It was an X field. It was low ceiling, spitting snow, not accumulating, just spitting snow, flurrying.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh man, they're all going to come. They're all going to come. Man, we waited. A few of them trickled out in the afternoon. We ended up shooting our 10 geese, drove back into the town, fucking sitting on grass. It's like, oh, come on.
You think they'd go for that high protein, that high energy?
They don't care. I'm getting more surprised now, honestly, the longer I do it, at just how resilient these things are to leave their grass.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Do you think that's a pressure deal, or do you think that's it's just right there, less effort?
You're seeing it more in different areas. I would say some weirdly reason why Rochester is a little ahead of times, but like you're seeing it throughout the state more and more.
Right.
Which is obviously a problem because it's really discouraging for hunters. 25 years ago, they flew in the morning, they flew in the afternoon.
Right.
You go to North Dakota, they fly in the morning, they fly in the afternoon.
Yeah.
Montana, they feed 3 times a day. Ours
Just
might
don't
not
stop
feed
feeding.
for 3 weeks, where they actually go out and feed in a field, So it's
Right.
discouraging, and that discouraging feeling is spreading, unfortunately. I think that's why you have a lot of guys that are like, man, it's not, we're losing a few waterfowl hunters. They're like, man, it's not worth it because we don't see anything. We don't kill anything.
I think we were talking about it a couple months ago, where you go on Facebook and buddies that you used to hunt with all the time are selling everything.
Everything. Yep.
Everything. Their trailer, their decoys, their guns.
Yeah, they're done.
Everything.
Yeah.
One of my good buddies that I got into hunting 14 years ago, he's like, I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm done. This is too much of a sport to do by myself because he doesn't.
Right.
He feels like he doesn't have any friends to do it with anymore. So he's selling his boat, all of his decoys, everything. And I'm like, that
And
kind of
that's
makes me
one
sad.
reason why I was like discouraged at the end of that year. I was like, man, 6 times? Like that's why I got more into duck hunting.
Got to be more hunting than that,
Yeah, because I love to be out there. I love to call at something. I love the game. And now with the boat, the dog, I'm as excited for season as I was when I was 20 years old goose hunting.
Right.
I'm jacked up,
What
whether
do
it's
you-
ducks or geese.
I feel like I really want to hunt with you, and Cal's never hunted with you.
Yeah, we need to do it.
Yeah.
Why I'm always like excited to get the opportunity to hunt with you, even though it never happens, is
That's because you bring Cujo.
well, not anymore. No more Cujo.
She's actually a great dog.
Yeah,
She'll just chew
right.
your head off.
Tell me about
Oh,
it.
when you come into her domicile, she's like, "Who the fuck are you, dude?"
She doesn't say that. She says a
Scott
lot.
didn't really come into her domicile in that situation.
She got
though.
close. He got close to it though.
He walked by a truck.
She was in the topper.
Scott moved to the same state as that
Because
dog.
how old are you?
I'm 41.
41, and so you've been doing it for at least 10 years longer than me. So I started actually waterfowl hunting seriously at probably about 9, 10.
Okay.
But I always went with my dad since I was about 2 years old. And I just feel like you have so much more old school traditional knowledge when it comes to duck and goose hunting. Is there something in, like, especially the world of duck hunting that you feel is traditional that a lot of kids our age and younger have lost in the translation?
Oh, for sure. The use of motorized decoys. And I say that because a lot of people now, I feel when they go duck hunting, they think they have the ultimate equalizer in the spinner. And fortunately, I'm going to say this, fortunately, I duck hunted when the spinners came out in
Right.
99, 2000, 2001. It was incredible. Like, you'd just be sitting there and all of a sudden here comes a wad of mallards. You're like, what the fuck?
Right.
Here comes this duck. Here comes this duck. And for a number of years, I'm going to say a good 15 years, 10 years it was really effective, was pretty good for 5 years. Now, I think spinners, A, everybody has them now, and 2, they're not as effective as they used to be. So I think it has came back to what you mentioned, that old school, everybody's kind of equal. Let's see the ability now versus the spinner, because if somebody had 2 spinners, the guy that had 4 won.
Yeah.
Or the guy that had 4, the guy that had 8, or the guy that didn't have 1, the guy that had 1. That was duck hunting for a long period of time.
Yeah.
On water, on land, it's totally different. But on water, that was the game. Now that has shifted where spinners don't work anymore. So it's going back to the old school way of duck hunting: concealment, decoys, movement, natural movement on the water, jerk cords. And big part of that is calling. If you could blow a duck call back in the 90s, you could kill a lot of ducks. And then it was kind of like, well, fuck, now I just need a spinner.
Right.
It kind of took away that huge
Advantage.
of that thing you work so hard to get good at.
Yeah.
Was just washed down the drain by a motorized spinner.
Anyone can do it at that point.
Anybody could do it, and now it's getting back to that game where that work ethic that you put into calling, that you put into your hide, that you put into your decoys, and you put into that movement on the water, not in the spinning wing movement, but the other movement, jerk cord or whatever, is coming back into play. So that's really great to see, I think, because it's going to teach people how to duck hunt a lot better.
Yeah.
You know, if you just, for so many years, duck hunting was just shoving a pole in the ground and turning it on, you know, and now it's getting away from that.
Yeah.
So
where we hunt a lot of ducks in our part of Minnesota, the water is usually anywhere from 8 to 2 foot deep.
Oh, okay.
And it made it really hard to put in a spinner.
Sure.
And I can think of one public lake. As soon as I got a boat, I did a bunch of roofing work in exchange for a 1436 John boat. Mm-hmm. And then my whole world was just like open. I was shooting buffleheads, canvasbacks, bluebills. It was incredible. You know, whereas before I mainly shot puddle ducks.
Yep.
And I'd go to these public lakes, compete with everybody, and I was always a pretty decent duck caller. And I'd look at everybody's spreads. It was a smaller lake, and there'd be like 6 other spreads out there. And I'm like, wow, that guy has 3 long lines and 6 mojos.
Yeah.
That guy has 60 decoys and 2 mojos.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm just like, I remember thinking to myself, my poles aren't even long enough to fit in this 6 foot deep water.
Right.
I'm just not I can't put out a spinner.
Yep.
And I remember that day I was calling really hard, and everyone else sounded like a kazoo on the lake, and I killed my limit before anybody else. And I just remember feeling so accomplished. I'm like, was it because I was a better caller, or is it because I didn't have spinning wing decoys? And then I went to a different lake like a week later. Same thing. I just tried motorized decoy.
It's really funny how the saving grace that I feel, is that a mouse in here? What is it?
Do we have a bird in here? Or?
Something. But it seems like waterfowl trust their ears more than their eyes. And that's been the story for as long as time. As long as we've hunted them, is that they trust their ears more than their eyes. Yeah. And it's really coming back to that now, because trusting their eyes got their ass beat for a lot of years.
Very deceiving.
And now they're back to trusting their ears more. And that's a game that I feel is better than.
It's really fun.
Yeah, I don't want
so cool.
battery killing my ducks. I want to kill my ducks.
Guys, this podcast is brought to you by Migra Ammunitions. They are the original stacked load out there. People are always asking, what kind of shot size should I use for ducks, and what kind of shot size should I use for geese? And honestly, we're using a lot of 1.3 stack load and 2.4 stack load. I like to keep it simple, KISS method, and just use one shell for both birds. And honestly, if you're using the shells properly, you're landing those birds, you're getting them within shooting distance, and all of them hit like an absolute hammer.
Yeah, the 2.4 is my favorite, and I can shoot it in my 20 or my 12, and I shoot it at geese and ducks all year.
All year.
So check out Migra. Go to migraammo.com. Yeah, in terms of like spinning wing decoys, we had Stan Guzzi on the podcast.
Okay.
What was that, a couple of years ago?
Yes.
Yeah, and Stan was like, we asked him what was the biggest, innovation in hunting. Oh. And he's like, well, for sure the spinning wing decoy. And he's like, you could literally be on a lake, and if that lake had one good spot on it, there's only one spot on that lake to even hunt ducks. You're on that spot with your whole spread, and some jackass could take any other shoreline or spot on the entire lake, and if they had 3 spinners and you just had decoys, you were fucked. He's like, you would just watch them shoot your ducks the entire day.
The entire day.
Yeah. And he's like, it blew my mind when that all happened,
And I remember being up in Canada with Mitch Hughes, who runs Canadian Prairie Outfitters. When spinners came out and he started using them in a field, that first season, he had 3 ducks that died by not getting shot at. They came in so hard, and he put his spinners low to the ground, they hit the fucking ground.
No.
Yes. Dead serious. And I was there for one of them. It was a hen pintail, and I watched her bounce off the ground about 4 feet. Dead as a doornail.
Are you serious?
Dead serious. Not even joking. Not even joking.
Wow.
Came in so hard she just smashed the ground. That's how hard they came into spinners 20 years ago.
Yeah, when they first came out.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's insane.
I couldn't believe it with my own eyes.
Yeah.
He had told me it happened twice before that, and I'm like, oh, yeah, okay.
Cool.
And then I got out there that morning, and it was like low light. It wasn't like, it was like blue light in Canada.
Yeah.
You know, so maybe she didn't have the depth perception of the ground, but she seen that spinner and she just crushed right on it and poof, right off the ground. I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Like, that just happened. Dead as a doornail.
It's unreal.
Yep.
A lot of these like innovations and changes, you know, quote unquote innovations, right? They've been being used for years already, you know. Obviously, the spinning wing decoy different, but you know, if you're talking about like silhouettes or you know, what kind of spreads you're running, you know, that type of stuff. I think there's a question right now, at least a question about like, have we gone too big on some of the goose spreads, right? Like, are people running too big of goose spreads, and maybe to differentiate now, going back to like a smaller spread?
Yep.
What's your thoughts on kind of that?
100%.
And where that's happening?
So like 2 or 3 years ago, we started going back to smaller spreads.
Yeah.
And yes. I mean, like what with you said is if somebody had a couple hundred full bodies and they're like, we need numbers. Well, now everybody has 20, 30 dozen silhouettes.
Yeah.
And they throw those out in the background, which we did that too for a number of years. We probably started going really, really big in like 2010. And it seems like in the cycle of goose hunting, when you're ahead of that game, you have like 4 or 5 years that it really works well. Like they hadn't seen it. You know, so, I mean, there were some hunts down there where it was in like 2,000, 2,200 full bodies, you know, the sleeper shells.
Good Lord.
And they just, you know, and then it got to the point where you could just see it didn't have that magical touch anymore. And probably 3 years ago, we started going to smaller spreads. And they like that more because they were so used to seeing a really big decoy spread.
Yeah.
You know, and, you know, they're just 4 or 5 year patterns. It seems like it just rotates and rotates.
How many hunts does it take for you to realize they're not digging it anymore? Like, obviously you have bad days or whatever where shit just isn't working, but
You'll kinda
what's
see
your
it.
staple?
Yeah, you'll kind of see, I think over a season, you'll start to see it because you're still shooting some geese, you know, over those big spreads, but you're like, man, they just didn't.
They weren't doing it
They
perfect.
weren't doing it, and you're like, yep. And then the next year you go into it and you cipher it down. So guys are starting to go, you know, I think a little bit smaller.
Yeah.
It was like 3 years because we had been using dive bombs for what, 6 years?
Yeah.
And we would throw 20, 30, 40, 50 dozen, and it was working really well.
Yeah.
And then you could kind of see, and everyone was using them too.
Numbers lost their shine.
And we've been talking for the last couple years where it's like we should really go down to like 3 dozen, like DSDs, and see what that does, and start using layouts in the middle of the field again because everyone's on the fucking edge.
Yep, they just get conditioned.
Totally.
Conditioned. And yeah, it seems like since I've been hunting, it's like 4 or 5 years you'll have a good run with something, and then it goes. Yeah, got to do something different, you know, to get into that run again.
When you're hunting geese, Scott, you'll see, let's say, for instance, you're hunting with a group of people and, you know, you see a bunch of geese off in the distance, okay? And as these geese are coming to you, sometimes, I mean, certain groups of geese are going to work and certain groups aren't, right?
Right.
What is, when you're watching geese, when you're deciding, like, is this a group of geese we want to call at? Is this a group of geese we can actually kill? What are you looking for out of that group of geese or those, you know, birds?
That's a good question. You know, obviously hunting around Rochester, refuge, a lot of times I'm hunting in the same field. I might hunt that field 10, 12 times a year or whatever, moving around. But I think when you have geese inside of a town or a refuge, which pretty much every spot now in the state, they're not just sitting out on a random lake. I mean, they're in a safe zone. So I think the first big thing I look for is a horizontal line. And what I mean by that is if geese are coming out of a refuge, whether you can kind of see them at an angle or they're coming straight at you, are they spread out this way? Like, or are they in a straight line?
Yeah.
If they're in a straight line, you might as well go back to drinking your coffee. Are they in a, you know, horizontal line coming at you? That's a good sign.
Yeah.
That's number one. Number two is how direct have they flown since I've seen them? And what I mean by that is, are they just steady wing beats, even in a horizontal line going somewhere, or are they kind of waving, bumping each other, not
looking around,
not knowing exactly where they're going to go?
Yeah.
And two is misdirection, we call it. You'll have a line that is coming out of town that you just know, not a chance. And what I mean by that is it could be 20 yards off that line. If they're coming out, let's say 2nd Street, which Joey hunted, if they're coming out and hugging County Road 2, no chance. But if they're 20, 30 yards off County Road 2, you got a chance.
Why is that? Like from that perspective,
just ducks that have seen what you've done and do every single day. I mean, geese that, so look for horizontal lines, look for waviness in their flights. It could be up and down.
Yeah.
As far as altitude, it could be left to right switch. If you ever see 2 geese kind of run into each other and bobble a little bit in flight, that's get ready. You want to be ready for that.
Yeah.
So those are some of the things I look for.
And then I'm still baffled when we were on that staff hunt that you almost got killed by my dog from inside the truck. You didn't pick up your call for, I don't know, let's just say 30 flocks as we were getting lunch lined. Just flock after flock after flock.
County Road 2 birds.
And there were 3 bubble pits, and for whatever reason, I was putting one of the bubbles with you. That you can actually see out of the pit. That you can actually see out of the pit, Cal.
Domes.
Yeah.
Domes. And Scott just saw this one goose, and he picked up his call, and he started calling, but he hadn't called for like 2 hours. And everyone else in the pit, it's 16 really good goose callers, and everyone's just hammering on every goose that they see, and Scott is just watching, talking shit, watching. And then all of a sudden he's just like, hits like 3 notes, and this goose just changes. And then he just keeps doing it, and then he's like, Joey, call. He just keeps watching this goose, and this thing came all the way down. What did you see in that one goose, or what are you seeing? Are you seeing like a little wing flick?
Unsteadiness, not sure.
Just an unsteadiness. Once they get close enough, you can see like head movements, altitude, misdirection. That bird came from, I think I remember that was a banded bird.
Yeah.
Wasn't it? Yep. That bird came from the northeast over St. Mary's Farm, and that's not a normal line. So things that we just talked about, misdirection, horizontal lines versus straight line lines, altitude change, just swerviness in their flight.
Yeah.
If you hunt a spot and you're hunting, and this goes for all cases, just kind of reflect and take into account what's going on. You know what I mean? Like if you have a great hunt, why was it a great hunt? If you have a terrible hunt where you had opportunities but didn't cash in, why do you think that was? Start putting fingers on it. Start putting pressure points, and maybe adjust it for the next time you have that similar situation and see if it changes the results. That's when you start to, I gave a seminar, and waterfowl hunters are very, very repetitious.
Yes.
Meaning if they have a trailer of 150 decoys, they're going to put out 150 decoys.
Yeah.
They're probably going to put them out in the same pattern, and they're going to hide pretty similar to the way they hide the last 15 times they hunted those geese. So repetitious is a death nail for waterfowl hunters in today's waterfowl hunting. So you have to switch it up.
Totally.
Just like with decoys, what's the best decoy to use? Well, probably the one you didn't hunt them over last time. They're like fishing lures. You can't throw a black and blue spinnerbait every single day and expect the same results. You got to have a tackle box worth of stuff to throw at them.
Yeah.
So repetitious, hunting the same way day in and day out, you're going to get the same results.
Yeah.
And it's usually not great. So if you ever have a thought of trying something wild, do it, because that day is you probably already know it's going to be tough. And if you try something wild and different, and it works, you got something.
Yeah.
So never be afraid to fail waterfowl hunting. It's okay if you don't get a social media post, on a 0 or whatever, but
that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Scott, this podcast is also sponsored by Onyx, and I know that you use Onyx, especially when you're going out of state. What is one of your favorite features of Onyx?
Well, it's crazy. The Onyx is unbelievable, and it's not just out of state too. It's in state.
Yeah.
I hunt the Upper Mississippi River National Wildlife Refuge. The place is huge.
Yeah.
It's 200,000 acres.
Yeah.
I mean, it's huge, and I use it at turkey hunting as well. Is that just my favorite feature is to look at it from, obviously, the cool thing about Onyx is, yes, you know who owns what land, you know those things with the outlines. But to me, the coolest thing about Onyx is that when you look at Onyx, that's what a bird sees. You're looking down at Earth.
True.
You're looking down at it. So when you have 200,000 acres on the Upper Mississippi River Wildlife Refuge, you can find holes.
You're scouting.
You can find holes.
Totally.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I can see ducks trading. Let's say they're heading the channel and cutting, quarter mile, or saying in a land feature that they're cutting off of and going west and then dumping down 300 yards away. Onyx, you look at that and boom.
You can track distance on there. Yeah.
Everything.
Right.
Yeah. So I use it more, not necessarily the outline of who owns what land, but I'm using it like, what is the bird seeing and how's he using routes? And absolutely, because, I found so many holes that you would never find. You're is it worth walking back in there? Wait a minute. Let me get out my Onyx. You know what I mean? And I can look on that, and you can scout from your bed at night just looking on Onyx.
Yeah.
Do you know that they just came out with Onyx Fish?
No, I don't even know what that means.
And so they'll like tell you the
Onyx on steroids.
Navionics, yeah.
Yeah.
And so they will tell you like the fish that are in that lake or that river.
Sure.
But what's most important for hunting is it'll tell you the depth of certain areas.
Sure.
And they're
Pretty
just starting to redo the technology
so it's like a
for
topo for water.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
And I'm pretty pumped about that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
pretty cool.
especially, obviously rivers are rivers. And they fluctuate so much, especially in certain areas. But I think they have like a 2-week accuracy, is what Ben said that they were going to get it.
Sure.
And so I'm pretty stoked about that because I can't tell you how many times, even when I used to have Navionics, be like, okay, be bow fishing. It's like, okay, that's 4 feet deep in there.
Just because there's lily pads doesn't mean it's 2 feet deep.
No, that shit was 8 inches.
Yeah.
Just like
or
shit.
8 feet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. One
exactly.
or two. Yeah.
One thing that I like to use it for is figuring out when you're, like you said, you're looking at it from a bird's perspective, picking out a hide. If you're going to pick a field, deciding where you're going to actually hide in that field. Geese can see 335 degrees.
Right.
How many people do you think are ruining their hunt worrying about all the stuff except for their hide? Because I feel like we see so many people with blinds, however it is that they're putting their hunt together, the hide is just terrible.
Well, hide is like, whether you're hunting geese or whether you're hunting ducks, it's a game of hide and go seek. That's all it is a game of hide and go seek. And for so many years, for the life of me, I've never figured out why we try to hide right where they're looking. And meaning that I have a 4 and 8-year-old at home. We play a lot of hide and go seek. When Raylan, my 8-year-old, goes over in the corner and he starts counting 1, 2, what so many waterfall hunters do is they go into the middle of their living room. They lay down on the carpet. They try to dress up as the color of the carpet, and then they pull furniture around them, decoys, and they lay there still. And they're like, I hope he doesn't see me. Well, what does Raylan do when he turns around? What the fuck are you doing, Dad? You're hiding right in the middle of the living room.
Right.
That's where so many waterfall hunters hide. What do we do when we're playing hide and go seek? You run and hide in the dark in the closet, right? So a big thing was, why A-frames became successful is it got you out of the decoys. Well, now that game is starting to get figured out by those birds a little bit. So I think when it comes to concealment, guys don't use the sun enough, ducks or geese, even when it's cloudy. We also don't take into effect angles enough. Everybody likes them coming straight in, or the new thing was cross shooting them. Well, those two angles are both the worst. I feel a 45 is the best. Whether you're hunting ducks or geese, field, water, it don't matter. Concealment. I mean, it's this is the part of the hunt that the work comes into play. When you drive out into a field and goose hunt, what's the first thing you pull out and put out? The decoys. Everybody likes to put out decoys. Same duck hunting. You need to flip that around. You need to flip it around and figure out your concealment first before you figure out your decoys. Definitely. Because it's a working man's aspect of the hunt is concealment. And it's
not focused on enough for sure.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just because you have when you look at these stuff, people hunting out of an A-frame and the grass goes 2 inches above the top. It's like, man, just fly a drone over that and tell me what it looks like.
Big black ass hole. Yeah.
Yeah, big black. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So it's just part of the game that nobody likes to do because it takes work.
Yeah.
Putting out decoys is way funner.
Yeah, it's way more fun.
Way funner.
Do you have a superstition when it comes to duck hunting? Like something that you'll always do just because it worked one time and now it's just whatever? Like one of my things that I do is I have a bunch of my dad's really old decoys from like the 80s. So he has a bunch of old styrofoam herders decoys for like divers, and then he had a bunch of Avery GHG spoonbills.
Okay.
And I swear to God, the white on those spoonies, almost every time ducks land on that decoy.
Oh, yeah. Ducks, when the sun's out, they love the white.
They love the white.
Cloudy out, they love more hens, I feel. They're darker. But no, I don't think I really have any superstitions.
No, like cute little things you do every time?
Not really. No. I mean, goose hunting, I probably had a few, with socks or whatever, but or long underwear. I had a pair of shadowgrass long underwear. It was like I murder them when I have these long underwear on, So I wore those probably a few too many times. But duck hunting, not so much. Not so much with duck hunting. I think
not yet.
Not yet.
I feel like it's the Stormy Cromer for you.
Yeah.
That's that Filson hat you wear.
Yeah, Filson hat. I've always had one of those, and I can still hear.
Yeah.
But the wool on top keeps me warm.
Yeah.
Like I don't need to cover my ears.
And the older you get, you have less and less feeling in your ears.
Yeah.
So
what? Yeah.
What is that?
Is that
with
a
like
thing?
Dude, think about it. Like think about all the guys you see, like the 60-year-old dudes that you see at like anything. They're just wearing a baseball cap, middle of winter, or like those old man hats.
Beanie.
Yeah, exactly.
The teeny weeny beanie that just fits like a shell on the top of your head.
Or like the old time golf hats,
Yeah.
That clip right here, and then there's no ears. Yeah, I mean, I don't think I've ever seen my grandpa cover his ears.
Right. No, my dad either.
No
he has
feeling.
a Massey Ferguson hat with the ball on the top that just like sits like right here. It's like that.
Exactly.
That hat's doing absolutely nothing.
Yeah, we framed with this old guy. It's like negative 12 degrees, wearing a flannel and a baseball cap.
I think the reason why that hat that I wear a lot is that so much of my hunting is audio.
Yeah.
With me calling or me listening to what, birds or whatever, that I've never wanted to cover up my ears.
No.
With something like a hat or something like that. So
sometimes you have to, man.
I really have to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really have to. And I'm not talking about like sound stuff in your ears. I'm just talking about covering up your
Right.
Yeah. Scott, this has been awesome.
Yeah.
We need to have you back. We'll have to come down to you.
Yeah.
We'll do another one.
Cue the music. What is that? The
That's
cha-cha?
El Camayon.
Music, yeah.
Okay.
El Camayon.
We if you hear this song, it's really hard to be mad.
You can't.
Pretty much impossible. Right?
Yeah,
You can't
Like,
not
I can't
smile.
be mad. I can't be mad that you played this song.
Exactly.
Just makes you.
Like
Good
to put things on a
conversation,
high
guys.
note. Yeah, for sure.
I think everybody should look forward to waterfall season. It's been a good hatch, both ducks and geese. And don't forget, join a conservation group.
Yeah.
Whether it's Ducks Unlimited or Delta. Guys, they help just because you don't have a back 40 wetland that they built for you. It goes into ducks and geese, and it's if we didn't have these organizations, we'd be way far behind what we are now.
Oh, for sure.
Join Ducks Unlimited. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Scott. One more thing, by the way.